there was an interesting article from the AV Club did where they did a whole special thing about a bunch of different games with the Cold War theme, and they mostly just talked about the different games and how they explored it, but they didn't delve into what I found interesting, which is that theme itself and why that lends itself so well to board games. And
well, yeah, I think that's a good thing
we
to discuss. First off, the Cold War, in terms of strictly we're looking at American history, I don't know every other country's history that could have something, is a very different war than what we were used to up to that point. I mean, every war has usually can have something, but I feel like this is significant. Like, World War I did have technologies that we never saw before, and that's actually where like chemical warfare really started, which is a big issue. And World War II isn't even about as much the war, but like what happened behind the scenes, which I think led to the Cold War, where the behind the scenes were now the forefront.
Right.
Like right. It wasn't, and I think that's what when you think of all the times you play board games, there is moving, but a lot of it is, okay, what is he thinking? How's he going to plan it? Like, in fact,
you're trying to read your opponent.
Right. Just blanking. The webcomic we really like that does a lot of board game ones.
Tiny wooden pieces.
I think recently, as of this video, had a comic up where they're playing a game of Android Nero, and he's like, "Oh, she's gonna go for my this or this or
right.
this," and he's like, and she goes, "No, I'm just gonna do this for fun." He's like, "What? I didn't see that coming. What is she planning?" But like that's the sort of the style of most board games, and what a lot of people like. It's that back and forth.
Yeah, it gives you.
And the Cold War was the dark, serious truth of
right.
that.
Compared to any other war, where if you've got a board game of it, you're basically troops on a battlefield fighting. It's much more about espionage, strategy.
Not even that. If you think of
stealth,
that's more like that's Call of Duty. You don't have time to think usually as much. You're moving in. You got to take the shots of this. The Cold War was a lot of, all right, I'm going to put resources here, but we got to make sure. Keep building nukes, but don't let them know we're building nukes.
It's much better as a simulated thing because you feel closer. It's like you're saying, like with a regular war. Well, there's still you're moving troops and stuff, but if you're supposed to be the troop, it doesn't really represent. You're not taking turns.
Right.
But in that scenario, it can kind of make that feel more realistic in a way.
Right, and going to another thing we've said time and time again is that you and many others love the traitor mechanic.
Oh, yeah.
That sort of unsureness, which the Cold War had. You didn't know if your neighbor was a communist, and plenty of people played that to their advantage. I mean, the Blacklist, what's that famous... the
McCarthy stuff.
McCarthy and stuff. I mean, the whole time was about non-trustworthiness, unsureness. Yeah. And I think that just works perfectly with board games.
Is there a game about... Because one of the things I'm always fascinated by is... there was a whole, in Hollywood at the time, there was a whole thing of, I think it was the Blacklist.
Yeah.
Right, with the writers.
Like, if you even, said something that and didn't have to be even related. I said, I don't really like hot dogs, and you did, you'd be like, then you go and hey, this guy's a communist, and then blacklist the person. That was the amazing thing.
Game. I bet there is a game somewhere that was based on that, but if not, there should be.
No, and there's a lot of small, interesting stories. There was actually a story about how the spy was caught because he accidentally paid a kid for a newspaper with coins that actually opened up to hold hidden messages.
Whoa.
And he screwed up, so when the kid found out, they're able to catch the guy because of that.
I want a code-breaking game, Wind Talkers or whatever, or
It'd be difficult, but
it'd be hard.
I think we're starting to approach that in board games, like Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
I'm trying to think of Spyfall almost in a way. Games, I'm trying to think of games Time Stories, that's a good one. Games that sort of
bridge the gap, blur the lines between game and story.
And not only that, where you play through, you learn to play it. It's not
right.
You sort of have an advantage by playing it once.
Right, playing the game is learning the game.
Yeah.
Rather than having to read a rule book. Yeah.
And I definitely think that would be a great one for someone to take that Cold Story idea. I don't think that's overplayed. That would have been.
No, I was surprised because when I read in the article, they listed a lot of games, and I was like, I can only think of Twilight Struggle. It's what else is there? They listed a bunch.
I think
I was that.
Then we sort of hit the other side of this two-edged sword. Is a lot because what you can do with this game make it really deep and dark. A lot of the games I can think of are much more heavy. So they're harder to hit the table compared to some other things. Like Cthulhu can be deep and scary, but it's very easy to make that very just what you see is what you get.
We need Cold War against humanity.
Yes, there's no Cold War against humanity.
There really isn't.
So I think that's where a lot of the problems. So that's what you said. You didn't hear a lot of them because I think
Right.
a lot of them are really dark, which is a shame because that reminds me of, remember the game we played that's based off or very similar to, I can't remember which one came first. It's, I can't believe I'm blanking on it. It's with
Yeah.
Avalon. It's their in Silver Box. Coup.
Coup.
But like the one that's actually based on the Cuban.
Oh, right. The Guatemala
Yeah.
1954
Which
set.
was a lot more interesting because there was a lot more story really in it because there wasn't just, well, that's the Duke.
Right.
There was more like you're thinking, what would the FBI agent do? Oh,
Yeah.
he's a news reporter. Like,
No, those historical games are really cool. Same with, Operation Faust and
yeah.
we haven't played. I think we haven't played a lot because a lot of them tend to be just those World War II simulators.
Well, if there is a moment in history that's overplayed, it's World War II.
For sure, in any media.
Well, because I think one of the reasons is, to be honest, is World War II gave us one of the best, by being the worst, it gave us one of the best gifts possible. It gave us a villain, a real-life villain we could all agree on hating.
Right. Yeah. Although Cold War was almost as good for that. Cold War was the best because it was like that, only the villain wasn't that bad.
Well, yeah,
they weren't Nazis.
No, I mean, but that's the problem. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to make a game that be like if you made a Cold War game where it's obvious the Russians are villains, you can't really make it in
Right.
Russia because it's sort of insulting.
But you did get a lot of good James Bond movies and stuff out of that.
Oh, of course, that's because we.
That's
in
where it
Hollywood.
is. It's the spy thing too.
Yeah,
That's really where it
and that's where we saw a lot of our spy things really are because of that. That
Right.
really brought spies to the forefront.